firestorm is erupting in D.C. and among the corporate press as Tucker Carlson continues to question the January 6th narrative, releasing footage and doing interviews. We now have new evidence suggesting some kind of cover-up or potential federal involvement in the organization or execution of the January 6th protests, whatever you want to call it. Now, of course, everybody knows about Ray Epps. It's very strange. This guy was advocating for, calling for people to enter the Capitol building, is seen right in front of the barricades, whispering in a man's ear before he then tears down the barricades. But for some reason, this man's not been prosecuted. Meanwhile, the Q shaman, the guy they say was this evil insurrectionist, gets charged and convicted. And then we see footage released showing him being escorted by the police. In response to what Tucker Carlson has done, the media has come out in full force lying about everything. It's actually kind of crazy. You know, I'm watching this clip I see from The Daily Show, and I think it's Marlon Wayans, saying if you have to punch a cop to get in, you're not sightseeing. And it's just like, man, really? How do we compete with people who will not even read CNN articles? Because CNN's got articles talking about how a guy got acquitted because the cops waved him in the building. What they do is they claim Tucker's lying by calling it peaceful, and they ignore the fact that Tucker actually did show on his show the violence at the Capitol. But he was discerning and pointed out the nuance in that the other side of the building had a peaceful rally and these people were confused. And that's the game. We have this video from Tucker Carlson. Benny Johnson retweets it. In an interview with Tucker Carlson, former Capitol Police Lieutenant who was suspended for wearing a MAGA hat says then Assistant Capitol Police Chief Yogananda Pittman, who was later promoted by Nancy Pelosi, kept vital info from the police on January 6th. This is, in my opinion, one of the more damning stories. Now, of course, you had a cop wearing a MAGA hat, trying to, I suppose what they're saying, he's trying to keep the politicians safe and protected and all that. But he's not being told what's going on. Now, we've had questions about this man before, for sure. But now his statements, Tucker Carlson, make it seem like the police knew. They knew what to expect. They knew how to expect it. And for some reason, they were drastically underprepared. And on the day in question, vital information was kept from officers, so they could not properly do their jobs. But let me just point out, as we saw the other day, the police escorted the Q shaman guy. In response to this, you know what's happening? They have leaked Tucker Carlson's private text messages. When you go up against the machine strikes back. But I want to play you a video from last night's Timcast IRL, which is going viral right now with 4,000 retweets as of 1 a.m. It is from Kenekoa the Great, who retweeted the clip from our show. And I know many of you may have missed it, but you need to hear what Kash Patel has to say about this in his conversation with me to understand the context of what's going on right now. I want to show you the lies they're pushing, the retaliation against Tucker Carlson, and I want you to listen to Kash Patel. Listen to this.
I think as a former federal prosecutor and a public defender who defended a lot of these types of cases, what you need to show is whether or not the FBI and government agents were using undercover operatives and informants on the day of January 6th, because if you can show that, you know they've been out. Hang on. But the paperwork shows having run informants, that's a 6-month buildup. Minimum.
Right.
Minimum. It's not like they just dropped them into the Proud Boys and said, hey, go, don't disrupt, please. So once you prove that, then you defeat the insurrection narrative with the FBI's own documentation. Forget what the videotape shows.
Just for people who you can't see what's going on in the room, the reason why Kash just said hang on or whatever is because I started smirking and rolling my eyes. And what I meant to convey with that is, come on, we know they were involved.
No, look, I totally
clarify,
agree.
Though.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I know definitively. What I'm saying is a reasonable suspicion is that there were agents. There's a video showing a guy with an earpiece pulling people into the building. All right. Mm-hmm. You combine that with the evidence of Ray Epps, and it looks like you have a preponderance of evidence suggesting there may have been federal law enforcement involved in making that thing happen.
I'll get you beyond a reasonable doubt.
All
Two
right.
pieces of information. Ray Epps was on FBI's most wanted list one day, and the next day he was off of the FBI's most wanted list. There are only two ways that happens. You die or your informant. Put that aside. Under congressional testimony, Jill Sanborn, who I used to work with, the head of the FBI Counterintelligence Division, in charge of all these investigations, testified under oath when Senator Cruz asked her, flat out, were there federal agents involved with January 6th? And she said, quote, Senator, I can't answer that at this time. Not if the answer was definitively no, having been a DOJ FBI guy myself, she would have gone there and said, nope, absolutely not. The reason she said I can't answer that is because of the same stonewalling they gave us during Russiagate with Christopher Steele, Halper, and everybody else. It's the same narrative, and I'm telling you they were there.
So the point is, and I think this clip from last night was so important, I wanted to show it to you again. I know some of you probably watched it live. Some of you have probably already seen it, listening to the show. I want to play it here as we are now dealing with a new video from Tucker Carlson, which came out basically at the same time, and the resulting retaliation against him. This clip, let me play a little bit for you.
Never called him to testify.
My voice was one of the first ones you hear on the audio transmission, so I did expect to get an interview at some time, but no, it didn't happen. I guess the focus was on Donald Trump.
According to Johnson, no one answered his numerous pleas for help over Capitol Police radio frequencies. Johnson says he, quote, didn't hear anything on the radio. According to Johnson, Yogananda Pittman kept vital information about the protests from frontline officers like him. Pittman was the assistant chief of the department in charge of intelligence operations.
We should have been better prepared that day, and we could have been better prepared that day if the information was disseminated like it was supposed to be.
Once protesters moved inside the building, Johnson's first concern was the safety of senators.
So the question is, if they knew the protests were going to happen, and they did, and there were police on site asking for help, where was it? There's a video showing a man walking up to cops saying, why aren't you doing anything about this? Why aren't you stopping it? Tucker Carlson released video showing the police escorting the Q shaman guy, Jacob Chansley, through the building and even trying to open doors for him. Why was that never part of the narrative? I want to show you this from CNN Politics, April 6th, 2022, about a year ago. Let me read you CNN. A federal judge on Wednesday found Matthew Martin not guilty of 4 federal misdemeanors related to trespassing, marking the first time a U.S. Capitol riot defendant was acquitted of all charges. Martin, who worked for a government contractor before his arrest following the riot, successfully argued that a U.S. Capitol police officer waved him into the building. At least one video played during the trial appeared to show an officer moving his arm in a waving motion. The acquittal is a major milestone in the massive January 6th investigation, as hundreds of people face the same misdemeanors as Martin. Dozens of rioters have alleged that they were allowed into the Capitol by police officers and that they did not know entering the building was illegal. The not guilty verdict is likely to embolden more alleged rioters to head to trial with similar claims. So you mean to tell me we got a video of a guy being waved in by cops, and not just him? You think this video is one guy by himself and the cop goes, hey, you, come on in, buddy? No, it's a huge crowd and the cops are fanning people in and they opened the doors. You see what the left is lying about. Let me show you this clip from The Daily Show.
I was watching Fox News last night because...
He was watching Fox News. Hear all the laughing?
Because apparently I hate my life.
So these are people, I watch MSNBC sometimes. You'll notice that even on these segments, I'll pull up a clip from MSNBC. I want to know what they're saying. I'll pull up clips from Joe Scarborough or from back in the day, Rachel Maddow. I shouldn't really do much anymore. Because I want to know what they're saying, and then I want to have that argument. These people laugh at the idea of learning something. Amazing.
But I learned something. You know how the
he learned something. You see that?
January...
Let me just point that out. He said, I watched Fox News because I hate my life, but I learned something. They all laughed.
January 6th as the day a bunch of violent Trump fans stormed into the Capitol. Well, according to Fox News, we just got the footage wrong.
You did.
Fox News host Tucker Carlson aired the first clips of the unseen January 6th surveillance footage given to him by Speaker Kevin McCarthy. On his show last night, he said the insurrection was mostly peaceful chaos, adding that the people who forced themselves into the Capitol weren't, quote, insurrectionists, they were sightseers.
We're going to get inside with footage that shows you what was actually happening inside the Capitol. And that video tells a very different story about what happened on January 6th. Protesters queue up in neat little lines. They give each other tours outside the Speaker's office. They take cheerful selfies and they smile. They're not destroying the Capitol. They obviously revere the Capitol.
Sightseeing my black ass. If you have to punch a cop on your way in, you're not sightseeing.
And there's the lie. As I already showed you and disproved his claim, one guy was waved in by cops. And again, not one guy. One guy was acquitted because a video showed the cop wave him in. Now, where was that? Why did they not show you? Why isn't the Daily Wire? I'm sorry, the Daily Wire. The Daily Wire is showing it. Why isn't the Daily Show showing you the footage of what happened at the Capitol? Why are they withholding it from you? Now, you can argue, I believe this is Marlon Wayans. You can argue they're just dumb as a box of rocks. I'm beyond giving people the benefit of the doubt. I firmly believe the people who produce these shows know full well. And why do I think so? In order to produce a show like The Daily Show, you have to actually go through footage to make your edits. Well, that would mean the editors have seen the full footage and know the full context and are intentionally misleading you. The backlash to what Tucker Carlson is doing is getting pretty intense. But I want to make sure I show you this from Tucker's own show.
QAnon shaman. Watch.
What's this?
These are the pictures you've seen of January 6th.
Well, hold
They're
on there a minute.
familiar because they've been playing on a loop on every media outlet in America for the last 2 years. There's a reason for that. But it turns out...
So you mean to tell me that if you actually watched Tucker Carlson's segment, the first thing he showed you was violence. Police with tear gas, windows being smashed out, violent Trump supporters. The first thing he showed you. He says, yes, the footage exists. It's real. We've all seen it. It's bad, etc. But it also turns out many of these people who were at a peaceful demonstration, I think he even mentions, let me see if I can, he pulls up the segment, a map, I believe, showing, look at it, he shows more violence, explains there was violence, and then goes on to explain that there was a peaceful rally on the other side of the building. Now, why won't they be honest about that? Look at that right there. A peaceful rally. Trump says you're going to go peacefully. Here it is. Let's pull it up.
Pennsylvania Avenue, where organizers had secured a federal permit to hold a legal rally on the grounds of the Capitol.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
So Tucker Carlson presents the nuance, and they lie about it. And the retaliation has been swift. We've got, the media is losing their mind. The impact of Speaker McCarthy giving Tucker Carlson riot videos. They're going after McCarthy. There was this video that came out where he said he believes in transparency. This is one of the latest developments. And they're saying he's whitewashing January 6th. You know, my friends, it's a scary time. And it's maybe always been this scary. What do you do when you're surrounded by a violent, angry mob? Can you talk to them? Can you try and convince them otherwise? You can't. And that's what this country is becoming. Rational discernment in politics is going out the window. We've got one channel, for the most part, Tucker Carlson on TV, surrounded by a violent, psychotic cult. And then they call you the cultist. But as I've already proven to you definitively, please share this one with your friends and family. Tucker Carlson did show the violence. He did explain the violence. He wasn't saying the violence was peaceful. He was saying there were other people on the other side of the building who were peaceful, who were led in by cops. And I've proven that to you as well with CNN saying a guy got acquitted because there's a video showing the cops waving him in. But why won't the corporate press go into detail about this? It's funny because that article I showed you is from CNN. From CNN saying this happened. Here's where they're going now. From CNN's Oliver Darcy. Tucker Carlson passionately hates Trump. And 8 more key revelations about Fox News from new Dominion filings. Yes, right after Tucker Carlson gets access to this evidence, which exonerates the Q shaman, in my opinion, they leak text messages saying he hates Donald Trump. The filings expose the face of the network, Tucker Carlson, as a fraud. They show that Rupert Murdoch rejected conspiracy theories about Dominion, blah, blah, blah. Carlson passionately hates Trump. In a number of private messages, Carlson was harshly critical of Trump. In one November exchange, Carlson said that Trump's decision to snub Joe Biden's inauguration was so destructive. He added that Trump's post-election behavior was disgusting and that he was trying to look away. In another text message conversation 2 days before January 6, he said, "We are very, very close to being able to ignore Trump most nights. I truly can't wait. I hate him passionately," he said of the Trump presidency. That's the last 4 years. We're all pretending we've got a lot to show for it because admitting what a disaster it's been is too tough to digest. But come on, there isn't really an upside to Trump. I don't care if Tucker Carlson likes or dislikes Trump. That's fine. That has nothing to do with what's going on with the January 6th footage. But you know what? They're going to come after Tucker and they want you to distrust him. The point of this right now, in my opinion, perfect timing, by the way, is to sow distrust among Trump's supporters and Tucker Carlson because Tucker is presenting evidence that shows something different happened on January 6th than what the January 6th committee is telling you. Oh, the Krasensteins, our favorite liberal commentators, were praising Jaime Raskin. Jaime Raskin represents the district literally right next to where I'm at right now. Several of my employees live in his district. He took video footage of me reading a news article and then juxtaposed it with people calling for a red wedding or something to make it seem like I was calling for insurrection. It's amazing. So a product produced by people who are in his district, he lied about. This man is truly depraved and evil. I think Jaime Raskin is evil because these people cannot discuss the things they are without having actually seen the real evidence. It's not possible. To put it simply, if you are actually going to pull a clip of me talking about what happened pre-January 6th, the news article, well, you have to actually watch the video to get the selects, to get the point. You want to pull out of context. They had to have watched me say, this is a news article I'm reading about Donald Trump, and wow, I mean, Trump supporters are getting crazy. In order for you to make that edit and lie, you had to have actually gone through the footage. Sure. You can argue it's not Jaime Raskin, but his staff who are truly evil. Perhaps. But come on, we ain't playing that game. Here's what we have. Kash Patel highlighting. First of all, Kash Patel, literally Trump administration guy, DOJ, FBI, all that stuff, prosecutor. He would know. Outright said last night that it's beyond a reasonable doubt that feds were involved. There's a video showing a guy with an earpiece pulling people into the building and a woman saying, "Why are you pulling us in here?" How about that? I'll make it simple for you, my friends. If I was employed by a shadowy government organization and they said, we want to guarantee that Donald Trump wins the election, I could snap my fingers and make something like that happen. Easy. No. Hold on. What I'm saying is I could formulate the plan for you in a few seconds. I've talked about it before. Here's what I would do. May 29th, 2020, a summer of love. Man, not that far off from an election. It's kind of crazy. It's been almost 3 years since the summer of love. Isn't it nuts? 3 years. A bunch of far-left extremists ripped down the barricades in front of the White House, set fire to a guard post, and set fire to St. John's Church. The police pushed them out, shut it down. Not before Donald Trump was rushed into an emergency bunker at the White House. If I was going to try and guarantee the election of Donald Trump being employed by a shadowy intelligence agency, what I would do is I would say, stand down. Let the far left extremists do exactly what they're doing. The next day, Donald Trump would emerge from the emergency bunker to fences ripped down at the White House and to St. John's Church being burnt to the ground, razed by far left extremists. And then what he would say is, the far left extremists have become a growing threat to this nation to the point where they laid siege to the White House and destroyed a historic church. When asked, why didn't the police stop it? Oh, you just say exactly what they're saying now at January 6th. The brave men and women of the Capitol Police were trying to. But there's a difficult stance that's taken when you're dealing with insurrectionist far left extremists and peaceful protesters who we were trying to protect. The fact is, if on May 29th, the far left succeeded in burning down St. John's Church, as they set it on fire, Trump then had the police come in and push them all out. Then they put the fire out. You see, it was the right thing to do if you're an honest man. It's the wrong thing to do if you want to win an election. Because what ends up happening is simple. Donald Trump, if he allowed that to happen, then the far left would be the villains. The Democrats would be forced, as much as they would still try and smear it, they'd have very little options. The media would have no choice. People would be asking questions. How did this building burn down? The White House was ransacked by who? Antifa? But they said Antifa wasn't real. Trump would then go on the debate stage and say, Joe Biden denounced these far left extremists. They are your supporters. Instead, the complete inverse happens with January 6th. The Capitol Police, for some reason, couldn't stop this horde of angry Trump supporters. The narrative becomes insurrection, insurrection, insurrection. So let me just say this. Considering I'm just some dude complaining on the internet, and what I said makes total sense, and y'all probably agree, I'll just put it this way. Whether or not anybody would orchestrate such a thing, imagine what would happen if the far left succeeded in ransacking the White House. Yeah, the media narrative would be inverted right before an election. Attacks in Portland, the far left threat, the American people would be freaking out. Antifa ransacking the White House? And Trump could have campaigned on that, and that would have been the issue. Because so many people felt those riots. There's photos of smoke emerging from D.C. when the riots went down, but Trump won. And so it doesn't become a narrative. It just becomes another protest was stopped, so what? But on January 6th, the protesters got in the building, and that became the narrative. If the Capitol Police stopped January 6th, there'd be no insurrection narrative. If Donald Trump did not stop the 529 insurrection, that would be all we are talking about, or at least until he got reelected. And he would have been reelected, hands down, no questions asked. You know, I've had conversations on Timcast IRL about the inverse, things that could be done to absolutely stop Trump from winning. And there's a handful of things. It just depends on how evil the people who want to win are, and I think they're absolutely evil, so I would not put it past the federal agencies, intelligence agencies. I could probably do a better still. There you go. Here's cash. I would not put it past them to organize and orchestrate something like January 6th in order to stop Donald Trump. But I don't know, man. I'm not going to say I know definitively. I'm going to say that any sufficiently evil person would easily have pulled off that game. It's a psychological operation, right? I think it is more likely than not and beyond a reasonable doubt that federal agents were involved. They knew what was going to happen. They knew what the plan was, and they let it happen. It helps them. The retaliation is now coming for Tucker Carlson. The machine does not sit idly by if you are disproving their lies. But it doesn't mean we've lost. We'll see. I got to admit, I'm not the most confident. I think conservatives are disorganized and dejected. I heard from one former Trump administration official who said, it may seem like there are victories in front of you, but the goal of the intelligence agencies is to give the right just enough wins so that it feels like you're having a pressure release valve, as it were. Win 49% of the time, so it doesn't feel like you're losing in the immediate, but the left is winning 51% of the time. I suppose we'll wait and see. We'll see. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.